Welcome, everyone. This is Pilot Beatles, and you're listening to LOTRO Players News, where we take a look at places in LOTRO and hear LOTRO players. And this week, I'm joined by Cinders
Hello.
and Sanswinda.
Hello from me and my canines.
Canines. Are we going to be interrupted?
I will try to mute myself, but I just heard them bark just as you started introducing us, so...
All right.
I don't know if it carried through, but just in case, they might say hi later.
Okay. And then let's go and see what is going on with the news in LOTRO this week. We have some news from Cordovan that we will be adjusting the drop rate of the white eggs and address other concerns in a game update that is planned for next week. So apparently there are a couple of egg drop rates that are a little bit off. And have either of you been following the festival news to know what he's talking about?
No. But does that have to do with the quest? Like, do you have to actually get white eggs to be able to complete the quest?
Do you know the last time I've run the egg fest?
I don't know, probably at least as long ago as I did.
Anyway, it's been a while, so I am not exactly sure on the matter. But I do see that there is quite a thread talking about such things.
Yeah, it looks like it's about the quest. Because the colored eggs don't count towards the quest.
Right.
And so with the increase in colored egg drops, it decreased the white egg drops. And so they can't finish the quest. So if they made it so that both colored and white eggs counted towards the quest objective, then that would be fine. Or they need to increase the number of spawns, or they need to increase the white egg spawn rate again.
All right. So I'm sure we're going to be discussing next week about which of those three options they decided to take.
Yeah, but it looks like you have to collect 5 white eggs to finish the quest.
All right. So those who are more interested in finishing that quest than are having trouble.
Yeah, or anybody wanting to finish it, which there's probably something attached to being able to finish it too.
Most likely the weekly.
Like
and
completing your weekly and daily and whatever, yeah.
Yeah, all sorts of things. So, yeah, I can understand there. So they are going to be tweaking those in an update for next week. You were saying?
Nope, just agreeing with you. They're going to be tweaking it.
Okay. Now, another little bit of news is they said, now, have to word this one carefully because they're saying that they are the 32-bit unsupported legacy client will no longer be available in the game launcher after August 27, 2025. That's, I think, when they have next week's update. Anyone currently using the launcher can select our supported 32-bit or 64-bit game client through their launcher options under General. Thank you. So apparently there is this old version of the 32-bit launcher that was still around that some people were using. Probably because maybe their systems weren't compatible with either the 64-bit or the newer 32-bit client in there. But since they're having trouble, but it looks like it's coming to a point where they cannot support this any longer. It probably has some relationship to Windows 10, going out of support and stuff like that. I don't know the exact reason for it, but apparently it's getting to a point where it is no longer viable for them to have it available. Because I think it's been unsupported for several years.
Yeah, so it looks like if you open the launcher and you look through the settings, you could choose your game client, 64-bit client, 32-bit client, or the 32-bit unsupported legacy client for Windows Vista and prior compatibility.
Okay. The Vista compatibility.
So the 32-bit unsupported legacy client is going away as an option from the drop-down menu. You can choose the regular 64-bit or the 32-bit, but the ones that supported Windows Vista and prior compatibility are going away.
That means if you insist on using Windows Vista still, then
you might need a new computer for running LOTRO only.
You might need a new computer, yes.
Or a new operating system on your computer only for using Windows, or only for LOTRO if you need it for other things for Windows Vista still.
I have a feeling that Windows 10 and 11 won't be able to run on any system that anyone's been clinging onto with Vista on it for the last few years, because
probably not. But like, I know I could run Vista inside my Windows 10 if I wanted to. That wouldn't really make much sense for LOTRO.
It wouldn't make sense for.
And I don't think it would necessarily work the other way around. Well, you can play some old games that way. You can also now play most of them in a browser window. So I haven't done that for years, but.
Oh, well, in any case, that old 32-bit legacy client that was still being used by some people who are running Vista will no longer be available. We can only hope that anyone that's in that situation is able to be in a position to own a better computer at some point.
Yeah, even if you get it used off Facebook Marketplace or something. I don't know that you're likely to find one, but, you know.
Well, now, and speaking of old things, it looks like the curator has returned. And
horses!
Yeah, it's your source for hobby horses.
And other cool things.
Yes, and she is going to be here until September 1st, which is Labor Day in the United States. So that means, so it looks like we'll be here until the holiday. So if you want your special Labor Day gift of a hobby horse, you have your chance to get one, right?
Yeah, especially if you have enough figments, or I think they're figments.
Yes, for figments. Oh, yeah, I have plenty of figments. I probably need to spend some, in fact.
I was gonna say, I recently had to spend mine down, so now I'm hoping I still have enough.
Yeah, right.
But if not, I can convert some stuff, so.
All right. Then let's go and have a look at the store sale. Cinders, what's on sale this week?
On sale this week, it is Create Your Own Sale, Determine Your Discount. So you can use code SUMMER15 for 15% off one item, 5 per account. SUMMER20 for 20% off one item, 3 per account. SUMMER30 for 30% off one item, 1 per account. Discounts are applied to the redeeming character. Use the coupon before logging off or switching characters. So make sure if you're going to use the coupon, you have bag space. And that's the character you want to use it on. Do it now through August 27th. Then find your Shadowfax and get 20% off of select Warsteeds and mounts, writing skills, Warsteed cosmetics. They still don't have Shire Plum Warsteed cosmetic dye, so I know that's going to break your heart. And also movement speed buffs through August 28th. And then the weekly coupon is for a free Summon Skirmish Soldier times 5. And the coupon code is Need Backup with no spaces. Also through August 28th.
And we were discussing earlier that if you are at level cap, it's not going to be much backup.
Yeah.
But characters under level 100 should get relatively decent backup.
Yeah, if your character's at least level, is at most level 100, then you'll probably be able to have some use for it. After that, well, let us just say that the Legacy.
I mean, they might draw some aggro.
Skirmish Soldier. Yeah, I think I sometimes have been known to use the skirmish soldier for when I'm doing solo skirmishes, for example. Pretty much have an herbalist there who's busy healing herself so that she can survive for more than 5 seconds.
Yeah, it doesn't usually work very long term, but no.
But it does act as a little bit of a distraction in there. So it's not exactly need backup as much as need cannon fodder.
At higher levels, yes.
or ballista or ballista fodder, I guess. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that is. All right. Thank you, Cinders, for that. And one thing about it, when they had the recommendation to use the coupon for logging off or switching characters, that is, of course, unless you were switching to the character you actually wanted to.
Well, you can't. You shouldn't return you shouldn't redeem the thing though, unless you're on the character.
That's you've already bought the coupon. Oh,
yeah. Okay, so if you redeem the coupon, you should use it before you log out or switch characters.
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, okay. Now I see.
Because I would guess that the coupon will go away when you log out.
Yeah, and that would be
if you haven't used it.
Right. So that would be nasty on there. Okay, now I understand that. Yes, use the coupon before then. All right. So it's hard to me because what I'm thinking is using the coupon to me is typing it in and getting the flag. So what I actually mean is use the flag that you got from the coupon before switching characters.
I believe so.
Yes. All right. Then let's talk about some memories, and we're going to talk about one of Sanswinda's favorite topics, and that is, what do you remember about your first Warsteed?
It was really awkward and clumsy. And a really plain, kind of ugly gray color. The quest to get it was a little bit harrowing and fun. And then I felt kind of bad for taking the Warsteed because it was like her memory of her husband. But then all of us were riding around on her husband's Warsteed. So then I felt a little bit better about that. Definitely failed the Warsteed training course multiple times. And then I discovered the light Warsteed. And then I fell in love with them. And it was amazing.
Okay. It wasn't until you got your first light Warsteed, were you?
When I got my first light Warsteed and put some points into agility, I absolutely loved the Warsteed. It took a lot of like coaching from Terry Edwin, and playing around with it and trying the training course over and over and over again. And then I finally realized that agility helped you steer. And I stopped putting points into anything else until I had a decent amount of agility. And my Warsteeding has probably not stopped since. Except for on characters who don't have Warsteeds.
At level 1, you're saying, can I get my Warsteed yet?
Right? No, like, I definitely, like, just to get better at practicing it, and then because it was faster, I took it back through Mirkwood. I took it through a bunch of other low-level areas where you weren't technically supposed to have a Warsteed, but it was faster to get around, and it was good practice for navigating things without being attacked. The Shire's a little bit tricky because sometimes you'll rocket past several fences that you've jumped over and have to do it all over again. But
you can also die by getting stuck on something in your Warsteed.
True, that doesn't happen very often anymore, though.
No, I remember being so shocked when that happened to me on my Warsteeding through the Shire, and then it was like, and you've been defeated. I was like, what killed me? I'm way over level.
Right?
And then
I definitely got killed by a lamppost a couple times.
So Sans was like, well, if you get stuck on like a rock, sometimes it'll just be like, send you to the defeat circle because it doesn't know what else to do with you. I was like, okay.
The one place that I found that I do not recommend Warsteeding where it is allowed. There are some places where I think it should be allowed and it's not, like Moria. But the one place where it's allowed and it's probably not a good idea is when ascending flats in Lothlorien. So like you can you can ride your Warsteed up to see Galadriel. However, and Celeborn. However, you will probably have to do it multiple times and might find the red circle. Unless you actually like use your Warsteed speeds, you can go slowly up the flat pretty easily. But my Warsteed usually has like 2 speeds activated, either full out sprint or completely stopped. So I did learn how to walk my Warsteed trying to get it up that flat. That's actually how I learned to use the walk feature on the Warsteed. But at that point, I may as well have just run with my own leafy feet. So, but yeah, that's what I remember about my first Warsteed. What do you guys remember?
I remember going with you to get the Warsteed, and you didn't tell me that it didn't work like horse pants. And so I was super confused on why it wasn't working the way I thought it should. And then like half an hour into it, you were like, oh yeah, it drifts. And I was like, oh.
Oh man, that's pretty funny.
Because you were just like, why are you having so much problem with this? Like, such a big deal. I was like, I can't get it to turn corners. You're like, oh yeah, it doesn't turn corners like horse pants. It drifts.
I think I did tell you that it turns more like an Oldsmobile, but that probably did not explain what was going on.
No, then as soon as you were like, it drifts, I was like, oh, yeah. My character primarily rides a heavy Warsteed. And while she is not known for trampling things, she does just like to ride around in circles and yell at them because, guardians don't do much anyways. So that's about all we do is run around and yell at things and make them mad. And then keep them in an area so other people can kill them.
All right. Now, what I remember about my first Warsteed acquisition is I'm pretty sure it was in beta for Rohan. Because I think that was the first time I actually was in beta for an expansion for LOTRO. And so we had the first day in there, for example, it sort of gradually opened stuff up. So we all went to Langhold to do our stress test there. We're at Langhold, and everybody that was in beta just about was there to run those early Langhold quests so it could start to work on the unlock to the Warsteed. Just to see how the system does and making sure that when everybody's going after trying to do the Warsteed at the same time, that we're actually able to complete the quests. Because you know how it is sometimes with the quest, trying to get it done.
Right?
Yeah, and I think this is also when they first introduced phasing, because they needed phasing in order to do the Langhold story, because they didn't want to instance Langhold and turn it into a place where you had to zone in and zone out or anything like that. So they had the whole thing about phasing Langhold, where you had this fixed version of, and then this broken version of by switching what assets are there. But anyway, my first time in getting a Warsteed then would have been in beta and trying to learn into it, because the next thing I remember relating to it after, of course, trying to do that lesson was I did a video for some reason on the Lore Master, using the Warsteed with the Lore Master. And this was before they updated the Lore Master's Warsteed thing to actually have the wolf pet because this is when when the lore master did not have a pet.
Okay.
Ouch.
On the Warsteed. So it was. I did a YouTube video on this, and going about using the lore master on the war. I have no idea why I chose that particular class to do a video on for the Warsteed or anything like this. That's the so when the YouTube commenters. It's very sad when the first thing that happened to you, some of the Warsteed, was that your pet disappeared. So yeah, I can understand. I guess the red line lore masters wouldn't be so much in trouble on that matter, but I'm sure that the modern red line ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could just imagine a blue line lore master summoning the Warsteed, and there's no pet anymore.
Right, well, and because the Warsteed you can actually use to fight for a while. I was kind of disappointed actually in the newer area when I attacked something on horseback from my Warsteed. I was definitely doing less than paper cut damage to it and had to dismount to finish getting out of combat.
Well,
it was pretty effective in the Rohan through at least up to Mordor. For killing something on landscape.
I don't think there were any more mobs that needed a Warsteed after Mordor.
I don't think so, but some of them you can still fight on Warsteed. Well, you can start a fight with on Warsteed. I don't know if you can finish one. Except maybe by running away. But
yeah.
I mean, that is.
I have noticed that they don't just die even on a light Warsteed in the new area, which I do appreciate. So.
All right.
But mounted combat is interesting, because you cover so much distance.
And I never.
And you have to kind of pay attention to where you're at and to where the enemy chasing you is at, so that you can try to maneuver to actually have line of sight on them.
I know. This week I was on the Pelennor Fields with one of my groups, and so we just arrived there, and we arrived there at level 99, so slightly below the level of the mobs that were there. And the trouble is that I try to figure out how do I fight these mobs, because I'm afraid to go into a Warsteed, because if I went onto a Warsteed, then inevitably the mob is going to draw me into a crowd of 20 orcs or something like that.
Well, yeah, because the Pelennor Fields is still pretty well camped.
Right. So
all right. When I was level 100 riding across the Pelennor Fields with Maven, my client crashed, and my character kept riding on a Warsteed, and Maven was cackling and laughing and couldn't believe it. And my Warsteed that had been on the straight path of the road ended up charging straight into a tent surrounded by enemies.
Yeah.
So even if you were being very careful while fighting on Warsteed, there are always things that can go wrong with that on the Pelennor Fields.
Yes, that's the thing. And in this case, I was going right, and I was spotted by a mounted archer. And the problem with mounted archers is you pretty have zero chance of fighting it on foot unless you are specialized in ranged weapons.
Yeah, you have to have a ranged attack.
Yeah. Yes, and I had a couple of ranged attacks, but
okay, you have to have good DPS on your ranged attacks.
Yeah, well, I think it's not how much damage I do that was the problem. It's the fact as how many of them I have, and many of my ranged attacks is because I accidentally took the trait that turns them into instead of targeted skills into area skills, and when you do that, their usefulness against a Warsteed opponent drops to 0 in that circumstance.
Yep.
Because you're not going to be able to plop it into the right spot because you got this moving target, very quickly moving target that's trying its best not to be hit by these splash potions you're throwing at it. So, yeah.
Ouch.
So that was a bit of a headache that I had on that matter. So I was trying my best not to go into a Warsteed simply because if I did that, I knew that would draw too much attention, and that's not something I wanted to do while I was still at level 99.
Fair.
So those are my 2 biggest memories I could think on Warsteed. Or I guess 3 biggest. One was, of course, the beta. The second one being the video I did with the lore master in there, and the third one being, I guess, this right here with that stupid archer that is just going around in circles around me, shooting at me and saying, ha 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 ha, you can't catch me. Man.
So rude.
Yeah, it's very, very rude. All right. See, is that everybody?
I think so.
All right. Then let's head into our weekend gaming. Cinders, what were you up to?
Well, I did the weekly Protos and Basement runs with Fennior's help to get M through because Guardian DPS is basically non-existent. And then we did another round. We did 2 groups. We did a Monday group and a Thursday group, and the Monday group was absolute chaos. Nobody was real happy with it. But with feedback, Thursday went beautifully. So we'll give it a go again on Monday evening to see if we are really getting it sorted. And then I played some Stardew Valley with Pine Leaf, and we are slowly moving towards perfection, and I am finally getting my house together so it looks less like a factory and more like a home. And
okay, is that why you're buying all that furniture?
I don't know that Pine Leaf noticed this. He did notice I was buying furniture because I was like randomly standing in his house buying furniture at like 11:30 at night. One day, and he was like, "It's bedtime," and I was like, "All right, I'll leave your house." And he was like, "Oh, you're in here?" I was like, "Yep." Yeah, but I added 3 new rooms to help reduce some of that visual crowding. And have started to shift stuff around so that it makes sense and has a good flow to it. So, yeah, that was my week in gaming. Sans, how was yours?
My week was pretty good. I made a bunch of new characters for the Another Round group. And started leveling one of them with the group on Monday. And that was a lot of fun. And now I have to choose a second one or just keep the one. I haven't decided yet. But I made like 6. So, I've got options.
You made 6?
I think so. There might have been 7, but I think there were only 6.
Only 6. That's Sensunda, only 6.
Well, I've got a lore master that I did run around with on Monday. I made a Bjorning. I made a champion. I made a runekeeper. I made a hunter. Maybe I only made 5. I might have done better than I thought. Anyway, I made a whole handful of characters to run around with, and then couldn't decide which ones to use, except for the lore master I knew for sure. So we'll see. And then I did some crafting in both LOTRO and ESO, which was pretty fun. But also inventory space is not my friend most of the time. And I got to meet up with Maven in real life last night, and that was so much fun.
It was
So.
a blast. I drove. It was great. Sans and I had a lot of fun together on our drive.
We drove through a forested area with like giant spider webs all over the trees.
And Sans
which was kind of creepy, and I tried to take a picture of it, and like all I caught were like Cinder's hands gripping the wheel tightly, which is kind of fitting.
So hard she couldn't even get a picture out the windows. It was great.
Anyway, I think I know where the spider problems have come from in Middle Earth. Or, hopefully they're not actually big spiders making those webs. But, I could totally see how that would be a plausible idea. But yeah, it was so much fun to see Maven and to get to have dinner and ice cream, and totally worth staying up till 2 a.m. So.
Yep. Hashtag worth it.
That was my week.
You were hoping that your car did not break down near that forest.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Actually, when I told my kid that I was going on an epic adventure with his aunt, he goes, well, hopefully it's not like our epic adventure. Don't have your car break down and have to buy a new one. I was like, okay. The car did not break down. I did not have to buy a new one. Everything went to plan. And we got a little side adventure out of it where we tried to save 30 minutes on our time. And
we might have actually saved it too.
I think we did, especially with the gridlock that we saw on our way back from car accidents and stuff. But we got to go over a toll bridge. We didn't realize that we were going to go over a toll bridge. And I misread a sign that said noxious weeds, and I read it as anxious weeds. And I was like,
oh, yeah.
And I told Sans, and Sans started laughing so hard. And then, like, the person at the toll booth that we had to pay to go over the bridge, it looked like they were trying to high-five us, which was funny. And then we got onto the bridge. And having grown up in Colorado and, like, with the Garden of the Gods, right? And they're these big, magnificent rock things. When you hear something like Bridge of the Gods, we're like, oh, well, this is worth $3. We're going to get to see some cool rocks, right? Like, no big deal. It was a completely metal bridge with grates for the bottom. I was like, wow. And so I was telling Sans, I was like, you better be taking pictures for posterity because we are never doing this again. And so she's like taking pictures. We get across and she's like, 12 pictures for $3. That's like 25 cents a picture. So.
And also, they totally missed a naming opportunity because they should have called it the Great Bridge of the Gods.
The Great. Oh!
Opportunity.
I'm just saying. But it was fun. And yeah. So the drive was fun, and seeing Maven was fun, and driving back was pretty fun too. Though in the dark, not being able to see spider webs, I'm not sure if that was actually better or worse because I knew they were there.
No, you didn't, because we were on a totally different section of road. So there may not have actually been any, because we didn't go that way going. It was just coming back on the interstate. So it was totally a different section of the road.
Anyway, that's pretty much my week in gaming. How was your week, Pineleaf?
Hey, well, my Mariner acquired a Warsteed. So yes. So going through that Warsteed tutorial again for I can't remember how many times on it. And it's amazing how after all the times I've done the tutorial, it's certainly not anywhere near as smooth as when you start to get agility into it or anything like this, that I'm able to navigate that track a lot more easily during the lesson than I did the first time. I know the first time I did it.
Practice helps.
Yeah, a lot of practice in there has sort of made a big difference in the matter in there. And this time I actually finally remembered to not start heading out and attacking the dummies until the NPC finishes talking.
Nice.
Because any hits you make before he finishes talking aren't going to count. Because they reset it as soon as he finishes talking. It starts counting up, and then when he's finally finished talking, because the count resets to 0.
Exactly, and that's so frustrating. You're like, but I was doing so good.
Yes, I've already done 5 of them, and now start over. So I said, all right, wait for him this time. It's probably best I was doing because that particular one was being recorded since I was doing an episode of my Mariner series.
Hey, an even better time to hit that one. Nice work.
Yeah. Now, on Friday Night Fights, we attempted to raid. We had only 8 or 9 in there, so that really, really awkward numbers for doing a raid. So someone at first was thinking, hey, maybe we could try Battle of Erebor. And the ones of us who remember what happened the last time we did a Battle of Erebor says, no. And someone says, okay, let's try Barad Guldur. Let us just say that I do not recommend running Barad Guldur with 8 or 9.
You feel like maybe that wasn't the most responsible choice?
It was not the most responsible. The results were not great. So I decided to try something less stressful and easier. Survival Barrel Downs.
Less stressful and easier. Nice choice, fine.
Right. Anyway, we got through 15 minutes on Survival Barrel Downs. So
nice.
I guess that was decent on it. My memory on that one was that the first lieutenant that came into it was a Leadfoot Brute. Last thing you want is a skirmish that puts you into a tight area
with a Leadfoot Brute. I agree.
And in fact, I managed to kill the Leadfoot Brute at the same instant that it killed me. So I spent...
That sounds about right.
Yeah, so I spent the next 3 minutes, with the gray screen before one of our... I guess our captain had a res available, a combat res available, so brought me back up, so we were able to... So I was able to continue on. Then after we finished Survival Barrel Downs, we capped it off with Siege of Gondaman, which is one that is actually completable by a raid. So we actually, with a light raid. So we managed to finish that off and finish with a victory instead of the getting pounded.
Nice.
Yeah. And then in DDO, they just released a new expansion pack, The Chill of Ravenloft. And so I started my adventures there. I've gotten through the first 4 adventures, I believe, there. So I'm hoping to finish the first half of the expansion this weekend, and then maybe next week I could report on having completed it. But I'm having a lot of fun with this particular expansion, and at first I was wondering, what is this going to be about, and am I going to like it? But it's turned out to be a pretty good expansion, I think. So I know you two don't play DDO, so you don't.
So I don't really understand, but I'm really glad it's good.
Right. We're glad you're enjoying it, Pineleaf.
Maybe someday I'll get you two to try it.
I mean, I was thinking about trying it again, and then remembered that school was starting, and that maybe this was
Well,
not the best time to pick up a new game.
Yes. Probably not.
I had an account at one point, and I don't know what happened to it. There's like no record of it when I've tried to figure out what happened to it. But I do know that I tried it at one point. Like, I created an account and everything. It just, nothing happened beyond that.
You created the account. Oh, now let me see. How do you play this game? Okay. Was that before or after LOTRO?
After LOTRO. So I started LOTRO back in 2017 when Sans moved home and I wanted to have something to do with her. Because for being sisters, we really do enjoy each other's, like, spending time with one another. So that was a big priority to me, was finding something that we could do together that we both enjoyed. And so that's how I started with LOTRO. And then, she had talked about like DDO players news and things like that. And I was like, oh, well, I'll just download the game and see. And like, I created a character and everything. And I remember logging in and being kind of confused about everything. But I mean, it had a similar feel to LOTRO. And I think like I even followed a few of the, I want to call them quests because that's how they would appear in LOTRO. But I followed a few of the little things, and I got to, like, I guess it would be a dungeon, and got stuck because I couldn't figure out how to solve the clues or whatever it was that I had encountered. I actually did a little bit with it, and then I was like, oh, I don't know about this, and then Sans was like, oh, I'll help you out later, you can ask Piley. I was like, okay, whatever, and then clearly never revisited it. So it's been, like, I'm sure since 2018 at least, and I've not touched it again. So I'm sure there's a reason that they have no recollection of me having an account or anything like that. But
Drac, what he does is that whenever we are doing a dungeon together, if there's a puzzle there, he says, okay, Pine Leaf, you're up.
Yeah. And I was excited because I love puzzles. Like, I love a good puzzle and the riddles and stuff and trying to solve them. But I was completely stumped. And I was just like, you know what? I can't do this. And then I think I did ask you about it. And you were like, oh, yeah, you just do da-da-da-da-da-da. And then I just never logged back in to do it.
Yes.
So.
Right. Yeah. I understood. But no, as Sans says, probably no time to try to get you excited about now since school is getting to start.
With the blogging and the school stuff and theater with my kid, I know I'm not going to have any bandwidth for it this year.
Yeah.
Maybe Christmas break. But, I'm gonna say I might have better luck with like a tabletop D&D game that I can just like put in headphones and walk around and keep house stuff going while I'm playing. But yeah.
All right. Now, if you have any memories of Warsteed that you would like to share with us, you could send that or any other feedback to podcast@lotraplayers.com. The Players Alliance has 2 shows on Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We have LOTRO Players News and we record DDO Players News when Drac is available. And that's all for tonight. And this is Pally Noodles reminding you to skirmish responsibly.